Good day, this is William Garvey, Editor-in-Chief of Business and Commercial Aviation magazine. Today we're speaking with Carl Janssens, the Editor-in-Chief Appraiser for the aircraft Bluebook. Carl, when a person is evaluating an aircraft for purchase, what are the key elements that should be considered, closely examined, that sort of thing?
The person has obviously already made their choice about what they need, the type, the manufacturer, and the mission capabilities of the aircraft, along with the amenities that are needed for their disposal in corporate use. When considering the aircraft, you would need to look at, obviously, the cosmetic condition of the aircraft, the condition of the paint, for instance. That's always a good indication of good care of the metal skin on the aircraft. It is an indication possibly that it has been protected from corrosion. In addition to that, you want to make sure that your interior has a very appealing effect to a broad range of people. The more neutral that color, the more less of a challenge it would be to invest in interior modification in the event that you would like to have an exit strategy at one day down the road to sell the aircraft. Another key element in the acquisition is to have the aircraft go through a pre-buy inspection by a qualified MRO. This would satisfy the less assessment of risk one would take knowing what the aircraft has been through, what its history is, and if there's any issues with the logbooks that would create a risk in ownership in as much as the value would not be held up. You would try to discover that.
Are there some things, Carl, where you look at the airplane and you go, walk away from this one? I mean, like right away you go, this is trouble.
Damage history would probably be the most significant issue on that aspect. If you're wanting to have a clean aircraft and not assuming any prior owner's risk for operation and a later exit strategy, if you're dealing with a late model corporate jet, probably it might be in the best interest of a buyer to walk away from a damage incident if there is an adequate inventory of other available aircraft for sale in that class.
Also, I was curious, I've been told over the years that what you don't want is an orphan airplane. That is an airplane whose manufacturer is out of business. Is that an absolute walk away from?
It depends on what you're doing with the aircraft. Obviously, if the aircraft manufacturer is no longer in service, you're going to have a very difficult time maintaining parts availability for the aircraft. That indeed could be an issue if you get into a limited production line of aircraft that were made whereas the manufacturer went out of business.
And you had mentioned a wariness about foreign registered airplanes coming into the U.S. Can you explain that a bit?
One has to be cautious. Foreign registries in themselves is okay, but what one has to look at is are the logbooks themselves in English? Are there any gaps in the history? Where was the aircraft maintained? What was the environment of its flight conditions? Was it close to a sea? Those kind of indicators are areas of caution that I would only advise to be concerned about when you bring that aircraft into the country.
Good advice for anyone considering buying a used aircraft. We've been speaking with Carl Janssens, Editor-in-Chief Appraiser for the aircraft Bluebook. This is William Garvey of Business and Commercial Aviation magazine. Thanks for listening.